K1Z is known to be the fastest team in Forza Horizon 5, with their members having millions of tune downloads. But are those tunes really the best? That's what we're about to find out. Here's how. At the first stage, we run the tunes on the track to set base times. We will be using fastest lap, average lap time, and some of the best splits as our metrics. For the second stage, we install the same parts and upgrades as the original tunes, and then apply our own tuning settings to see if we can improve the tune without changing any parts. And finally, at the third stage, we completely change the build while only keeping the same purpose and car class as the original tunes. We compare all the results in the end and give those tunes a score out of 5. I asked multiple other drivers to perform the same tests so we can get more accurate results. This should also tell us if different driving styles or skill levels have an effect on the tune. Here are the tracks we will be testing the tunes on. They are very similar compared to default Forza tracks with a few adjustments added in. They have a good balance of straights and different types of corners. Time set on these tracks will tell us how good a car will perform for general road and off-road racing. We'll be testing 4 different race tunes from Suman and Bard in this video. Let's begin. First, we'll be looking at this B-Class dirt tune for the 22B, which is one of Suman's most downloaded tunes. This tune features a way below average power to weight ratio, but it also features lots of grip, which made this car extremely easy to drive. And even though the handling was on the oversteery side, no one had issues controlling this car. The suspension was properly tuned and the car was stable on and off road. The only complaint about this car was the lack of acceleration, which was expected. Here are the lap times it managed to set around our track, which is slower than the Wuling. For stage 2, there are many tuning settings to change, but none of them result in any notable improvements as most of the grip comes from the car itself. You can adjust how much you want the car to slide according to your driving, but that only resulted in around 0.2 of improvement on average, with drivers at the middle making the most out of it. And that's it for stage 2. For stage 3, you can trade in some handling for more acceleration by adding more weight and more power. For most Horizon tracks, this exchange is absolutely worth it as the car had more than enough handling anyways. On average, this resulted in around 0.6 of improvement on our track. The original tune was really good, and while you can't do much to improve the settings, you can use a different build that performs better in general. The average rating for this tune is 4.1 out of 5. Next, we'll be looking at this S1 class road tune for the Elise GT1, which is one of Bard's most downloaded tunes. This tune has a good power to weight ratio and features drift tyres. Compared to the usual rally tyres, drift tyres actually perform better in the corners. What they lack is straight line grip, which for some people made it difficult to control the car coming out of low speed corners. Overall, you have less acceleration at lower speeds as your tyres struggle to grip up, but this issue starts to fade as you get up to speed. This car features lots of downforce and you have no problem maintaining traction at mid to high speed corners. In fact, this is the best rear wheel drive balance car you could use in S1 class, and it managed to set extremely fast times around our track. But can we push this car even further? There was a lot of variety in stage 2, but for the most part, longer gears, more camber, and less differential acceleration were used. These settings make the car easier at low speed corners, but they also impact high speed cornering. You can also do the opposite to make the car even better at higher speeds. Our adjustments had mixed results for stage 2. Small improvements were consistent for drivers at the top. For others, however, there isn't really a pattern. Some got worse and some had even bigger improvements. On average, we can see just over 0.2 of improvements across all 3 metrics. That's it for stage 2. The main build for stage 3 simply uses rally tyres with similar stats. This build is easier, handles much better at lower speeds, and only has a slight disadvantage at high speed corners. We also had an all-wheel drive build, a power build, and the same build with more power and weight. Out of 11 drivers, 8 of them managed to make notable improvements using these new builds. On average, these improvements are at around half a second across all metrics. The original tune is recommended by many as the best balanced tune for release, and while it is a good tune, there are clearly ways to improve it further. The average rating for this tune is 4.2 out of 5. The next tune is a B-Class road build for the Super B, which is a recent tune from Suman. This tune features lots of horsepower, not so grippy tyres, and no aero, which for most people resulted in nothing but wheel spin and sliding. This tune is known as a purist power build, and it was so difficult to control that we only had 4 testers for this car. The fact that this car was tuned for even more oversteer didn't help at all. You simply cannot find understeer in this car. You are either maintaining traction or spinning your wheels. mostly the latter, but regardless, it is drivable if you are really precise with your inputs, especially the throttle. Thankfully, the suspension was tunable, so it should be clear that everyone went for a more understeery settings with more focus towards rear grip. These settings helped, but not as much as you wanted. You still have a hard time controlling this car, but it's certainly better. Here are the lap times. On average, everyone managed to improve by over a second. For stage 3, you can upgrade to street tyres and lower your horsepower. This new build will certainly make the car easier to drive, but it's not necessarily faster. 2 of us couldn't improve our stage 2 times using any of the purist builds, but the rest found more success using the grippier build. They managed to improve even further, especially in the fastest and average lap time. And that was it for this tune. The original build is optimal for above average players, but the tuning settings are questionable at best. The average rating for this tune is 2.4 out of 5. The last tune is an S1 class road build for the NSX, which is a recent tune from Bard. This tune is all-wheel drive, and the stats are fairly balanced with a small lean towards power. Upon driving, this tune turned out to be extremely responsive. Well, maybe too responsive. This tune uses extremely stiff settings, which makes the car twitchy and unstable, especially over elevation changes. The brakes also have a tendency to lock up, but if you ignore the instability issue, this tune actually performs really well. This car is known to be unresponsive and understeery by default, something which this tune has managed to completely eliminate. Here are the lap times, which is pretty good for an all-wheel drive car. For stage 2, you can use normal settings and tune this car to be more stable, but that would reintroduce the understeer back to the car, which lowers its lap time potential. In fact, almost no one managed to improve their fastest and best possible lap in stage 2. The average lap time, however, was noticeably improved as a result of stability changes. For stage 3, you can switch from semi-slick to full slick tyres in exchange for less horsepower. This new build is easier and is just as viable depending on the track. Here are the results. Some people failed to improve, and some performed better using the new build. On average, we see over 3/10 of improvements in fastest lap, not much change in best possible lap, and even bigger improvements in average lap time. In the end, this tune is near perfect if you can deal with the instability. The average rating for this tune is 4.7 out of 5. Some K1Z members were highly requested to be featured in a tune review, and here they were. Their tunes are kind of a mixed bag, but they are mostly good. It is also certain that their tunes are aimed at players at higher skill levels, and it is likely that other players will struggle with their tunes. And that is everything. In the past 6 episodes of Tune Review, we have tested top tunes from popular tuners. In the next one, however, we would do the exact opposite. If you have less than 1,000 downloads, drop the share code of one of your tunes in the comments. Make sure it follows the rules on the screen. First 4 tunes in the comments will be featured in the next episode. Thanks for watching and goodbye.